B'Shem Hashem na'aseh v'natzliach. Shir Torah. Good to be back. Baruch Hashem, this Hollywood show is getting a lot of traction. Some people are doing teshuvah. Baruch Hashem, one person told me last week they started keeping Shabbat. After watching the shiur. So Baruch Hashem, the Balei Batim have a lot of zchuyot in Shemaim. For hosting the shiur, for people to show up to the shiurim. Baruch Hashem, hopefully it helps each and every one of us do teshuvah. Now, before I forget, always start off, we have some Ilui Nishmat and Refuah Shlema. So today, Baruch Hashem, we'll have some Refuah Shlema to Levana bat Sarah, Sarah bat Levana, David ben Esriya, Doris bat Jora, Irit Naomi Chaya bat Tzancha, and Yochevet Esther bat Batya, and Elisheva Chaya bat Sarah, and Chana bat Miriam, and Miriam bat Mazal, and Zachariah ben Anat. Zat Hashem HaKadosh Baruch Hu will give them refuah shlema, refuat hanefesh, refuat haguf. One of the people that I mentioned the name, two of them, really, are children. If you hear about the asonot that are happening to Am Yisrael now, it's really mind-boggling. It's mind-boggling how many asonot, how many disasters are happening to Am Yisrael on a day-to-day basis. Every day, if you're connected to Am Yisrael, you're connected to Hashem, you love His people, a requirement is for you to rip your heart up again, all over again. How many asonot are happening to Am Yisrael? This Irit Naomi Chaya, Zat Hashem will have refuah shlema. She, I don't know her, but one of my students had a message sent to me saying to do refuah shlema. She went walking with a dog. The dog's over here. Maybe they knew about the story, so they're saying, no, it's a good story. Says the dog's fault. Said that we don't know what happened, but she went walking with a dog, and all of a sudden the dog, obviously everything is from Shamayim, the dog pulled her really hard, and she ran with the dog, and Hashem Erachem into the street, and a car hit her at 60 miles an hour. And they're talking about having to donate organs, this, that, Hashem Erachem, 12-year-old girl. It's, you think about it for a second. 1 second, you have your 12-year-old little angel. Never did anything wrong in her life. What does she know in her life? She hasn't started it yet. She just became 12. And you think, hi, honey, you take it for granted. You play with the kid. You laugh with the kid. You eat with the kid. You go to sleep. Everything is good. Next thing you know, you have to figure out what's going to happen in the next minute, because every single second you may get the worst news of your life. You have no idea what's happening. Also, you may have heard that one of the Gdolei Ador, which we've talked about recently, Rabbi Steinman, passed away. At 104 years old, an Ish Kodesh, a man of holiness and truth, Mamash, Ish Emet, left us. He's Baruch Hashem in Gan Eden. We, unfortunately, are still 50-50. We have two options. Like Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai says in Masechet Brachot, there are two doors, there are two possibilities, and I don't know which one they're going to put me in. This is Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai, a Tana Kadosh. All of his students were able to revive the dead. The least of them was able to study to a point where if a bird flew over him, I keep telling you this story because I'm amazed at it, it would burn just from the Kedusha. Now, Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai, his students came to see him and say, Kvod Harav, teach us something, before you pass on to the next world. teaches things. Who are these students? Who are these students that he's teaching? Who? Rabbi Eliezer ben Horkinos. Who's Rabbi Eliezer ben Horkinos? Rabbi Akiva's rabbi. Who's Rabbi Akiva, the student of Rabbi Akiva? Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, Rabbi Meir Baal HaNes. So these, Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, Rabbi Meir Baal HaNes, these are the students of Rabban Yochanan ben Zakkai's students. Just imagine where he is in the totem pole, and yet he says, I have two options. I have Gan Eden, I have Gehenom. I don't know which one they're going to put me in. I don't know. Why are you so scared for the Rav? He says, if I was going to go to a king of flesh and blood, where if he's angry at me for a limited amount of time. Why? Even if it's his whole life, the king is angry at me his whole life. He's a king of flesh and blood. His whole life is what? 70 years, 80 years, 90, 120, that's it, finished. He's finished. But I'm not going in front of a king of flesh and blood. I'm going in front of the King of Kings, where if he's angry at me, he's angry at me eternally. Shem Erachem. So now, Rabban Yochanan ben Zakkai is scared. We are not scared. Rarely do you meet anyone that has an ounce of Yirat Shamayim. And I decided the other day that after hearing some of these stories, I decided that it's the right thing to say, because I confirmed it with my Rav, and it's the right thing to say that, Rabotai, we have some bad news. And the bad news is that on one end, Mashiach is coming whether we like it or not, which we should celebrate. In reality, it's not the greatest thing in the world to celebrate, and the reason why is because there's no such thing as frum in the world. There's no frum. There's no such thing. Everybody says, no, he's frum from birth, he's Baal Tshuva frum, he's frum. Frum is also a food in Tripoli. So that's frum. Mafrum. That's the only frum we have in the world. As far as actually religious people in the world, as far as frum, doesn't exist, Rabotai. Everybody has to do tshuva. Everybody has to do tshuva, including myself, including you, anyone, everyone. The rabbis, the students, the male, the female, everyone has to do tshuva. In essence, everyone has to aspire to hopefully, Be'ezrat Hashem, by the time the Mashiach comes, to be Baalei Tshuva. Alvai. Alvai, we are all Baalei Tshuva. Alvai. There's no such thing as frum anymore. There's no such thing. Anyone that still thinks they're frum, you're dreaming. Alvai, you become Baal Tshuva. Alvai. And the reason why is because the more you learn, the more you realize what the truth is, and you start comparing it to where you stand. And not just you personally, the world around you. And Shlomo HaMelech says in Kohelet, Ki berov chokhmah rav ka'as, v'yosif da'at yosif mechov. For with much wisdom comes much grief, and he who increases knowledge increases pain. This is Kohelet, Ecclesiastes 1:18. What does he mean? He who increases knowledge increases pain. Usually knowledge is power. Usually knowledge is good. Shlomo HaMelech, Chacham Mikol Adam, is telling us, the wisest man that ever lived, is telling us, Rabotai, the more you realize, the more you know the truth. Knowledge means wisdom, means Torah. The more you know, the more you realize how far away we are. The more you realize where the emet is and where we are, as far as exercising this emet. Now, the stories that I hear, some I can share, some I can't share. Either way, I usually don't mention names. But I'm telling you, the stories get worse and worse. Mamash, worse and worse. I thought that maybe the secular world has problems, so B'ezrat Hashem will help them do tshuva. I'm a safek right now which one, whether it's the secular or the religious world, have more problems. I'm not really sure. I talked to my Rav, one day it's the religious world. The next day, secular world. One day, religious world. Next day, it's back and forth. It's like matkot, tennis or whatever it's called, ping pong. You don't know. Mamash, you don't know. Just in the recent past, I got a half a dozen wives, a half a dozen women contacting me telling me that they're considering, in one case already exercising, unfortunately, their freedom. What's freedom? Freedom that their husbands are stupid to give them to go with other men. Why? Well, they didn't tell them go with other men. They didn't tell them that. But in essence, the husbands are either never home, they're out with their friends, or they're working 25 hours a day, or they don't pay attention to their wives, or they're not good, or whatever this. And half a dozen, I'm not talking about one, two, half a dozen women, no, I'm going to find myself a boyfriend on the side. Steve from Facebook, and Carlos from WhatsApp. This is becoming mamash like a sickness. Now, if you're saying, listen, this is a secular world problem, it's nothing new. 80% of the people get divorced. What are you surprised? Eventually, the divorce, something has to lead to it. It doesn't just one day wake up on the left side and say, Abba, oh, husband, thank you very much for giving me 10 years of your life. Goodbye, I'm leaving. It doesn't happen like that. Usually, something happens before. But Rabotai, unfortunately, the cases I'm talking about are in the religious world. That's the scary part. And you know, I heard when I first started becoming religious, started getting really closer to Hashem, I heard this whole concept from the Rabbanim of how you're supposed to have a kosher phone and a kosher app to protect your computer and a kosher this and a kosher that. And I'm like, come on, no, it's just a moneymaker. What do you want me to have a kosher phone for? What do you care if I have a kosher or not? What is that? Bada, you have to put it through a mikveh. What do you care about my phone? If I can't watch my eyes, what do you think, a kosher phone is going to help you? I'll do it on my computer. If I can't do it on my computer, I can do it on the phone. If I could have both of them and I really want it, I'll just find another one. If somebody wants to cheat, they're going to cheat anyway. If somebody wants to do, they're going to do anyway. You think me having a kosher phone is going to make me a kosher person? Some of the most unkosher people in the world have kosher phones. What are you doing with this? I thought it was a complete joke. And even though I don't think necessarily that the kosher phone, kosher this, and kosher that is necessarily the cure, I understand the argument. Because I'm now hearing that people are meeting on the internet. Mamash, the Satan is infiltrating the religious Jewish home in the most unforeseen places. A normal woman innocently goes on the internet to look for cookies, to look for bakery, for this, for that, whatever, for toiletries, for something. Says, oh, I got to click. Oh, it's my husband's Facebook. She never had Facebook, miskina. Never had Facebook in her life. But she saw a click on the computer, click, little red thing, said one on it, said tut. She presses on it, says it's a girl. My husband, the tzaddik with the long beard and the hat and everything else, has a, who's he talking to? Is his niece? Who is this? Oh, it's his girlfriend on the internet. Shem Erechem. It's girlfriend on the internet. And vice versa, same thing happens. This Rabotai finally made me understand these stories that I'm getting lately is making me understand that the rabbis are onto something. They knew the Satan is going to take advantage of every single tool you have in your house. If he can get to you through your blender, he'll get to you through your blender. You think I'm joking? He'll get to you through your blender. I know somebody right now, last 6-7 months, lost 60 pounds. 60 pounds. Why? He was blended. There's a juicing movie they saw. The guy juiced, lost a bunch of weight, became healthy, used to have diabetes, this, that, kapata vonot, all these types of pain. Said, oh, juice like me and you lose 60 pounds. So they did it. 60 pounds later, everything, Baruch Hashem, looks great. But now that I'm better looking, I need to wear tighter clothes. And now that I have tighter clothes, more men are paying attention to me, more than my husband who just sits there like a golem. More than my husband. He's all the Carlos and Steve and Wilbur and Jesus from the supermarket are all paying attention to me. Okay, so maybe I'll take one of them as a boyfriend to take my shopping cart. She's reconsidering her life. We think I'm joking with the blender? So much 100% emet. He got you through a blender. He got you through a blender. You think it's always a good idea to go to the gym? Rabotai, people continuously complain about their children, not realizing that it's the parents that are stupid. The children miskenim just came to the world. You're their kaparat avonot. You as a parent are their kaparat avonot. They made some sins in the previous life. They have you as a parent. You don't know right. You don't know left. You're still considering whether you want to be married. You're considering if you want this job. You're considering if you want to move to Florida or you want to move to New York. You don't know what you're doing. You don't even know how to be a parent. But we're complaining about the kids. We're so far off from the emet that when this keilah of Charedim found out that Rav Steinman passed away, Alav Shalom, a ish kodesh, a ish emet, what did they do? What do you hear about the world that lost a Gdolado? Cries, right? What didn't you hear? Is a whole community of Charedim, religious people, that threw a party and started giving away cupcakes and bonbons, celebrating the Gdolador's death. Why? One time Rav Steinman, who was a ish emet and never ever went away from the emet. His emet was as emet as can possibly be, unbiased, uncensored. Didn't matter who you are, didn't matter what you are, made no difference. One time a person came to him and said, Kvod Harav, I finance 1,000 avrechim. 1,000 avrechim, I pay them every month. It's half my salary, you know. So you would think all of you guys are impressed. Shtabach Shemolad, there's one guy in the world that's giving money for 1,000 avrechim. What kind of schut he has in Shemaim? Wow, alvay alai. A wish on us, right? What does Rav Steinman say? I never knew that one person needs the same salary as 1,000 avrechim. That's a ish emet. That's a kosher mind. You're saying that you're spending half your salary on 1,000 avrechim. What are you doing with the other half? Why do you need so much when 1,000 are settling for the other half? What are you doing with the other half? That's a kosher mind. Now, when he found out that there's many avrechim, unfortunately, that are not really avrechim. They just go to a kollel, they do nothing. They smoke cigarettes. They play on their phones. They chit-chat. They do nothing. Unfortunately, there's many people like this. Not everyone, obviously, but there's many. Enough to cause a big stink in Eretz Yisrael, where the government has been non-stop using this as an excuse, as if they needed more excuses to go against the Torah. They now use this as an excuse already for a generation. Oh, you shouldn't have avrechim. They milk the nation. They don't do anything. So, you have 600 people doing nothing. You want to punish 100,000. So Rav Steinman said, listen, if they're wasting time, if they're not learning, and you see that they're not learning, if you see that they're getting in trouble making sins, better send them to the army. At least they have a misgeret, they have somebody controlling them. So what did this keilah translate this as? Oh, Rav Steinman is saying to take our Bnei Torah and take him to the army, chas v'shalom. They took what he said, and they misconstrued it to something completely different, put a cherem on him, and they were his enemies for life. Non-stop enemies. If anyone can imagine such a ish kadosh having enemies, he had enemies. Death threats, articles, posters. They didn't stop going against him. Now you would think, okay, fine. Many people had enemies in life. Moshe Rabbeinu had enemies. Moshe Rabbeinu had enemies. Aaron Avinu had enemies for more. Everyone has enemies. But when they die, even your enemies showed up. Yeah, you know what? We were bitter enemies, but rest in peace. Allah shalom. Baruch dayan ha'emet. Or nothing. You say nothing. But how do you know when someone is such a rasha that the pasuk says that the reshaim, even on petach of Gehenom, even at the gate of Gehenom, will not do teshuvah. The reshaim at the gate of Gehenom will not do teshuvah. The Chassid Yavitz says, yes. What does this pasuk mean? It says, up to the gate of Gehenom, they don't do teshuvah. Because they're still firm with their belief. Inside Gehenom, everybody does teshuvah. But still, you know you're going to Gehenom. You know you're going to the fire. You know you're going to somewhere hot. You know it's not good. Why are you still staying? Why are you not doing teshuvah? Why not doing teshuvah? Because sometimes somebody is such a rasha that instead of thinking, maybe I made an error, maybe this, maybe that, they twist the Torah to such an extent, they say, you know what? I'm only getting punished because I didn't celebrate enough that he died. I'm only getting punished because I didn't make the sin even bigger. Because in their mind, it's true. In their mind, what they're doing is emet. Their lie is emet. So that's why these reshaim that call themselves religious people started celebrating that he died. Even if a regular normal Jew dies, you're supposed to mourn. It's like your brother dying, your sister dying. No different. Your son, your parents, same thing. Kal v'chomer, needless to say, if it's a Gdol Ador, a giant of the generation. Now, for some reason, people think I do this for fun. Like as if this is fun. Like telling you guys some of the stuff that I tell you is fun for me. Like people think, oh yeah, look, maybe he has a hat company on the side, so he talks against wigs. Maybe he has a Shabbat organization, so he talks against Shabbat. Maybe this, maybe this. I think I do this for fun or something. Like I tell you the stuff that I read in the Gemara, I read in the Zohar, I get from my rabbis. You think I do it for fun. So let's see what the Gemara says about such stupid people. And you tell me if you think it's fun after we get to the conclusion. Gemara Masechet Moed Katan talks about a specific type of stupid people. What kind of stupid people does it talk about? Page 25a. It says, why do the sons and daughters of man, certain people, why do they die when they're young? Why do they die? It's a good question. Now, how many parents are asking this question? All the asonot that we've had in recent memory, all the things we've seen, forget about in our life. Last month, since Rosh Hashanah, I lost count. I lost count how many people I know that died. It's unbelievable. So the Gemara asks, there's children, young people. Gemara asks, why do people's sons and daughters die when they're kids? They're minors, they didn't make any sins. Gemara says outright, he's punished because he did not weep, he did not and mourn over the death of a kosher person. Someone that's a kosher person died, and he said, he died. Okay, yeah, what are you going to do? That's life, that's life. One of those attitudes. Yeah, Baruch Hashem, everything is for the good. Everything's for the good, like one of those guys. Everything's for the good for everybody else. Something happens to him, Hashem, why are you doing this? Their dog dies, Hashem, why are you killing my dog? Somebody's father died, son died, something. Oh yeah, everything's for the good. Everything's for the good in their life. Have emunah, have emunah. What emunah? Why don't you cry a little bit? It's your brother, it's your sister. You don't feel like it's your brother, it's your sister? Okay, we'll make it feel. Gemara says, Hashem, you didn't cry for a kosher person that died? Okay, we'll make sure you cry. Make sure you cry. And you guys think I was exaggerating. Come on, no. They're going to hang him tomorrow. They're going to crucify me with JCPenney tomorrow when they see the shiur. So let's say what else they say. Technically, it says, Ish becheto yumatu. It says in Deuteronomy 24:16, each man shall die for his own sins. So how could it be that a child dies for his parents' sins? He's still a child. That's if you know the pasuk says, Ish becheto yumatu. Ish means a grown-up. As long as a child is a child, he's not considered a ish. He's considered part of the parents, like an arm. like a leg. Meaning, child chas v'shalom bar minan gets punished for parents' sins until he becomes a ish, until she becomes a isha. They're not considered ish or isha at that point. So Rashi explains that this only applies, in the words of the verse, if the ish or the isha is an adult. But when when the children are minors, they're seen as elements of the parent's domain and are indeed subject to harm as a result of their parents' misdeeds. This is in Rambam, Ilchot Teshuvah 6.1. In the Gemara Masechet Shabbat, page 32b, it lists a list of different sins. Different sins. Gemara Masechet Shabbat, you should look into it. It's a beautiful Gemara. It gives you a list of different sins. Why does Hashem take away children from their parents? It gives you different sins. They make this, they make this, they make this, they do this, they do this. What's one of them? What's one of them? It repeats exactly what this Gemara Moed Katan again says. When people do not mourn over the death of a kosher person. Now the question is, why does Hashem care so much about the death of a kosher person? I mean, there's much bigger sins in life. There's Chilul Shabbat, there's a Nida, there's all types of sins, Hashem Erachem. Why is it okay, you didn't cry? I mean, come on, maybe you didn't connect to him, maybe you don't know him, maybe something. You're going to cry every single time a kosher person dies? First of all, what's a kosher person? What's a kosher person? What, they put a stamp on him like they put on the phones? Kosher? How's he a kosher person? So kosher person, by definition, Rashi says, it's a person that was not suspected of making any sins. Meaning, is it somebody I know? It's a kosher person. I look at this guy, I don't think of him going with married women, or Mechalel Shabbat, or anything in the open. Well, of course, everybody has sins, but you're not suspected of someone that's being mamash like a sinner. That's, first of all, the definition of a kosher person. This is both the definition of Rashi, it's also in Shulchan Aruch, and also Rosh. But even more so, why is this sin? Why is it such a big sin? Why is it this specific thing? And it doesn't say the same thing about Shabbat. It doesn't say the same thing about stealing. It doesn't say the same thing about going against your parents, something like that. Why? It's 10 commandments. And the Gemara explains is that in reality, everyone has one of those sins that's a big enough sin, whether it's Chilul Shabbat, or Nida, or this, or that. One of these big sins. But in Shamayim they said, let's leave it on the side. Let's not punish him yet. Let's give him a chance to do teshuvah. Why? How does he can do teshuvah? There's a sgula, there's a special deed in Shamayim. It says, if you mourn a kosher person, we'll forgive you for those sins. Meaning we'll give you more time to do teshuvah for the big sins you made. Now the time came, a kosher person died, you didn't use the opportunity. Okay, so now I'm going to have to punish you for the previous sin you made. So it's not necessarily that you died for that kosher person. It's not because of that. That was the trigger point. That could have saved you or hurt you. Simply shedding tears. Now, many people are going to say, okay, this is very nice. It's written 2,000 years ago. Maybe it was applicable back then. It's very nice. Thank you very much. Scary a little bit, but listen, many people don't cry and many people are okay. Okay, so now, what's the proof? That very same Keilah. Am Yisrael is not very big. Unfortunately, it's not very big. So Am Yisrael, when you talk about a Keilah that celebrated Rav Steinman's death, it's not very hard to find. Type it, you'll find it. That same Keilah, you could verify the facts. So you don't think I'm making this up for some type of a show. The very same Keilah reported that 3 babies died in strange deaths since the death of Rav Steinman. One of them, a table fell on him. Shem Yerachem. A table fell on the baby. When does such a thing happen? Tables just fall? You think this is a joke? You think that Hashem says, no, I wrote in the Gemara, Chachamim, it's for educational purposes. Enjoy. Enjoy the education. I said in the Gemara that if you make certain sins that kids die. I didn't mean it. I was just kidding, guys. I was just joking. 3, strange deaths. So now why do I mention this mostly, other than to get you guys to understand the Gemara? Regardless of whether you understand or you don't understand, it's 100% real. Regardless of whether you believe or you don't believe, it's 100% real. Every word. Because unfortunately, some people are so warped, their minds are so far away, that even when you send somebody to go tell them something, and they asked the Rav to come give them chizuk. They asked the Rav from somewhere else to come give them chizuk. He told them, listen, similar to what I'm saying to you, forget about whether you liked him or not. He's still considered Gdol Ador. He's still considered a holy person. He's still considered a righteous Jew. You like him, don't like him, he's still a Jew. You can't go celebrating his death. You can't go celebrating his death. What does one of the leaders for this kehillah say? No, I only think the 3 babies died because we are getting punished for not celebrating enough. Do you understand the level of stupidity here? Do you understand? Ivelet adam tesalef darko ve'al Adonai yiz'af libo. Shlomo HaMelech says, the stupidity, the foolishness of man leads him to make sins against God, and then he gets upset at God for punishing him. Would you expect him to just sit there and do nothing? To give you a little bit of background of who Rabbi Steinman was, this is the type of person that he had only one version of the truth. Because in reality, there really is only one version. I heard this fool, they call a prime minister over there. He's in some commercial with a couple of people and everybody's celebrating BB this, BB that. And he had some type of commercial before one of the videos. And he's, I don't know, talking to a couple of other people. I don't know who the other people are. I'm assuming they're probably famous for some strange reason. But anyway, the point is that in the commercial he tells them, just stick to your own truth. Stick to your own emet, because the truth always wins. 50% of that sentence is right. 50% of the other sentence is kfirah. Who wants to guess which 50? The truth always wins. 100% true. Stick to your version of the truth. Kfirah gemura. It's heresy completely. Why? There's no such thing as your truth. There's God's truth. That's actually one of the things we learned from last week's parasha. We had a chidush, we said in the Bikneset, and I think we said part of it during the shiurim, but there's an additional part to the chidush. Now, Yaakov Avinu begs his son, Yosef, please, do a chesed and emet by me, do a kindness and truthfulness with me, please. Don't bury me in Mitzrayim. So we said in last week's shiur, what is this chesed and emet? Chesed and emet means do something that's kindness, like Hashem did to Yaakov Avinu himself, which is he gave him things he didn't even promise. He gave above and beyond what he promised. But emet is that he did what he did promise. But nonetheless, we learned from this pasuk that Yaakov Avinu is showing Yosef, this is serious. How am I showing you this is serious? Put your hand under my brit, because that's the masoret, that's the learning that we have from our forefathers, from Avraham and Yitzchak, Well, that's how we make deals. Why the brit? Because that's the deal we ourselves have with Hashem Yitbarach. So I'm reminding you, put your hand under my brit and do chesed ve'emet. Why? I'm showing you that this deal is not just between you and me. This deal is between you and Avraham and Yitzchak and Hashem Yitbarach. Don't let this masoret, don't let this learning, don't let this connection with Hashem die in Egypt. Don't bury it in Egypt. Don't bury it in Egypt, chas v'shalom. Because this chesed ve'emet is everything. Now, if you look at the Haftarah is always connected to the parasha in one way or another. It's in essence the last days of David HaMelech. And it says David's days drew near to die, and he instructed his son Shlomo, saying, I go the way of all the earth. Be strong and become a man. Safeguard the charge of Hashem your God, to walk in his ways, to observe his decrees, commandments, ordinances, testimonies, as written in Torah Moshe, so that you will succeed in all that you do, and wherever you turn, so that Hashem will uphold his word that he has spoken regarding me, saying, if your children will safeguard their way to walk before me sincerely, be'emet, with all of their heart and with all of their soul, saying, no man you will be cut off from upon the throne of Israel. So here we see again the connection is not just a simple connection that David HaMelech is also dying and also blessing his son. Because then again, you could pretty much connect Yaakov to every single parent that ever lived and had a chance to give his son a blessing. That's not the connection. What's the connection? He says, Shlomo, the only thing that keeps us alive, the only thing that keeps us ticking, the only thing that's our survival is emet. What emet? God's emet. If you fulfill that emet and you make sure that your descendants fulfill that emet, everyone will succeed. Everyone will succeed. Everyone will prosper. Why? The same blessings that he gave me, the same blessings that he gave you, the same blessings he gave to our forefathers will last forever. What is it? Emet. Stick to the emet. Which emet? Does it say there's two versions of emet anywhere? No, it's one emet. The same emet that's in Parashat Vayechi, it's the same emet that David HaMelech hundreds and hundreds of years later is. Same emet. Nothing changed. Absolutely nothing changed. The same exact emet. The same God, the same Torah, nothing changed. Of course, there was Matan Torah in between. But Yaakov Avinu already had it. He just wasn't obligated like David. David saying whether he was obligated or not, irrelevant. His truth, my truth, same thing. Hold on to it. Don't bury it in Egypt. Don't bury it in Egypt and make your own version of the emet because you don't like it. It's not modern enough for you. It's not this for you. It's not that for you. Don't change nothing. So this, Rabotai, this emet, how do you know if it's emet? How do you know if you're emet? If your truth is really emet? How do you know? First and foremost, you have to compare it to what God said. Which means that all bias, all preferences, and all opinions get thrown out the window. If you don't like a certain rabbi because he says something you don't like, that's just simply your opinion. If you don't like a rabbi because he's a liar and he created something, it's a different story. He's not a rabbi. So before you decide whether someone is a ish emet or ish sheker, what did he say to get you to have this fact? Because it cannot be an opinion if it's emet. Emet is not an opinion. Truth is not an opinion. Truth is truth. It's a single truth. There's no two truths. So, when people would come to Rabbi Steinman, alav shalom, they literally would think that he would applaud them and cheer them and this and that for what they're doing. So everyone knew that he lived in literally a box. And his bed was a mattress that was 50 years old. Even the homeless people have better mattresses than he did. is what held up this mattress was milk crates. Milk crates held up his bed. And people come to him, Kvod Harav, here's $1.5 million. $1.5 million for you. Here's $1.5 million for you. He says to them, what am I going to do with it? No, they're looking around. They think that he realizes that he's in a bad condition, but he doesn't have anything to do about it. He says, what am I going to do with it? What am I going to do with this money? Because maybe fix your house, get a bigger house. Because why? What's wrong? What do I need to do? Why do I need anything? He didn't see anything wrong with the situation. Why? He was a real ashir. He was really rich. Sameach bechilko. He was happy with his share. What he got, he's happy with it. So when one rich guy came to him and he says, Kvod Harav, I'm financing, I opened a bunch of kollels, yeshivot, Baruch Hashem, chayil, we're doing good. Only problem, Kvod Harav, I feel like really, only 5% of what I'm doing is lishma. Only 5% of what I'm doing is really for Hashem. The rest of it is, it's not really for Hashem. So what would you think he would say? We would say, hey, you should do teshuvah, do all of it for Shema. Why? You have big schut in Shamayim. You're opening kollels, you open yeshivot, ashrecha, ashrechelkecha. You should be happy, you should be celebrating. What did Rabbi Steinman say to him? Because that 5% doesn't make a difference. That 5% is withholding you from opening another kollel. Do it lishma, lo lishma, just open more Torah. Get more people to learn Torah. We don't need you lishma, lo lishma, just open more Torah. Publicize more Torah. Why? That's what's important right now. You and your own accounting coming, no, it's 5%, it's 2%, it's probably 100% anyway. Stop making excuses of why you're not doing more. One guy came to him and said, Kvod Harav, I want to decide on a job situation. If I go teach in a big yeshiva, meaning older people, it's a lot of kavod, but less money. If I go teach in a younger yeshiva, young kids, it's no kavod. Nobody respects a kindergarten teacher. Nobody respects a 5th grade teacher. But there's a little more money. So the Rav gave him the answer. And after he said, okay, Baruch Hashem, and he started walking out. Rabbi Steinman, 100 years old, got up off the chair and started walking him to the door. He says, Kvod Harav, I went to my local rabbi doesn't get up for me to walk me out. Wow, Baruch Hashem. Why? Why do I deserve such honor? And the Rav says to him, people come to me all the time, and they say blah, 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 blah. They all say all these different things. In the end, it's always about kavod. But they sugarcoat it with other things. It's sugarcoated with, no, it's this, no, it's that. In the end, it's always because they want more kavod. At least you said it right off the bat. You want more kavod. At least you were honest. For that, I'll walk you to the door. At least you were honest. You were honest. That's what you're looking for. Why? Because emet is the starting point of teshuvah. Even if the emet is not so pretty to hear, even if you don't like hearing the emet, even if it's painful to you to hear it, the reality is that Shlomo HaMelech is saying in this pasuk, why does you having more knowledge cause more pain? Because more knowledge means you have more emet. And if that emet is the real emet, it must hurt. It must hurt. Because it means you have to do teshuvah. Everyone loves the truth until it obligates them. I have many people that started watching the shulim, started coming to the shulim if they could, if they lived locally, or watched them online, loved it. In the beginning, whatever shiur excited them, like, wow, ishtabach shimo, all the compliments in the world as if I'm something. Compliments, letters, text messages, BFFs, best friends forever, little change they want to make. Yeah, I'm the greatest. Wow, dude, all greatest things in the world. All of a sudden, it's time. They donate sometimes, they don't donate sometimes, whatever it is, irrelevant. But fans like you would never believe. I don't think Michael Jackson had fans like this. write you letters on a daily basis. I start to think to myself, like, wow, such effect I have. And then I look in the mirror, I'm like, oh, it's not me. It's nothing to do with me. So then, Baruch Hashem, you're like, wow, this is going good, this is going good, this is going good, this is going good. 6 months, a year later, a year and a couple of months, year later, some dog barks the wrong way. I say something in the lecture that they didn't like to hear, whether it's the wig, or it's Shabbat, or it's Sniut, or it's this, or it's that. It's something that's emet for them. They don't like it. You're Amalek, you're Erev Rav, you're this. What happened to the 1.5 year relationship we had? The love letters you sent me. All the love letters you sent me, you said I'm this, I'm Gdol Ador, I'm Ktan Ador, I'm this Ador, I'm that Ador, I'm a deodorant, whatever you said to me. All the things you said, what happened? I missed them, all the love letters. What am I going to do with all the letters you sent already? I'm going to throw them out. You know how much time I invested in reading them? What happened? Amalek already? Why? I said one thing. Is it true? Is it true? That's the question you have to ask. Is it true? If it's true, why are you mad at me? If it's true, why are you mad at me? Why did you like it when I was saying the truth to everyone else? It didn't obligate you because you already keep Shabbat. It didn't obligate you because you didn't have any Shlom Bayit issues. It didn't obligate you because you didn't have that issue. But finally you got home. Ooh, Amalek, Erev Rav. What happened? So, the truth must hurt. It must be painful. Mussar must be painful. Why? It obligates you. It obligates you. It means that at the end of a shiur Mussar, at the end of a 15-minute session, you read some Or Yisrael, you read some Mesilat Yesharim, you read some Ochot Tzadikim, you come to a shiur, whatever it is, at the end of it, something must hurt. If it doesn't, something's wrong. Something's wrong. It has to obligate you to do something. I'm going home, I got to do something. About what? Why? Do something. Something just happened. I got head on the head with Mussar. Something has to change. Yeah, but I'm religious for 20 years. Exactly. That's the problem. I got used to it. In the book of Ezekiel, Rabotai, there's a very special mitzvah. A mitzvah that we're only going to be able to fulfill when the Mashiach comes. What is this mitzvah? A mitzvah of attending the Bet HaMikdash. Attending the Bet HaMikdash. But Hashem Yitbarach writes in the book of Ezekiel something scary. He writes in chapter 46, verse 9, that if you enter through the northern gate, you must exit to the southern gate. If you enter to the southern gate, you must exit to the northern gate. Now, I don't know about you, but I'm pretty sure a lot of people are going to come to Bet HaMikdash. It's going to be a pretty happening spot. A lot of people are going to want to come. It's going to be a little tzafuf. It's going to be a little crowded. So to get in, there's probably going to be a line, security, this, that's going to be hard, tough, right? So now, I finally got in. Traveled all the way from Jehannam. I got finally to Bet HaMikdash, Baruch Hashem. I got there. Shalom, Baruch Hashem, Shtabach Shem Olad, everything is good. Okay, I need to get out. But to get to the other side, not only have to go through everybody, which is kaparat avonot, how much time it's going to take me. It's going to be 2 hours just to get to the other side. But on top of it, I park my car on this side. It's right behind me. Why do I have to go to the other side when my car is over here? Because if I go to the other side, then I'm going to have to go all the way around again to get to my car. It took me 5 minutes to enter, 5 hours to leave. But this is a mitzvah. Mitzvah just like keeping Shabbat's mitzvah. Why? The Yavet says there's a very big poison inside every single one of us that's exercised by choice. What is this choice? What is the choice? The choice is getting used to things. He says if you get used to things, eventually they lose their meaning. If you get used to your marriage, eventually it loses its meaning. You get used to your husband coming home at a certain time, Eventually, you're not going to get up because that's what you're supposed to do when your husband comes home. Doesn't matter if he works at a muffler shop or he works at a supermarket or he works for the president. It means nothing. He's your president. He's your king. Same thing with the wife comes in. Husband's supposed to stand up, not continue talking to his friends on the phone about the card game coming up. But if you got used to it, you got used to the marriage, sometimes you forget to say hello. If you got used to your kids, sometimes you don't ask them, what'd you get in the test? Why? The teacher will tell me if something's wrong. If something's wrong, I'll know. Why don't you check? Maybe there was something wrong. Maybe there's something wrong is just the kid wants attention. If you don't check in with your employees and ask them if they're happy, eventually they'll find a place that they're happy in. If you don't ask your customers, are you happy? Eventually they'll find somebody that actually pretends like they care if they're happy. And so on and so forth. Why? Why do the biggest companies in the world lose their stature? They get comfortable. After the dot-com crash, year 2000, a certain company came to America Online, Microsoft and Yahoo. All huge multi-billion-dollar companies. And they said, listen, we're one of the companies that survived the dot-com, but we need a lot of money in order to get to where we want to be. Would you want to buy us out? We're willing to sell ourselves for $10 million. For Microsoft, that's a day worth of interest. Not even. For Yahoo, same thing. They bought a different company that's worthless for $4 billion just a few years before that. $4 billion for a company that's completely worthless. America Online, they did a merger with Time Warner for $85 billion. $85 billion. That's 85,000 millions. So 10 million is nothing. It's like throwing a quarter. Hey, kid, go. Good luck. What they say, nah, dot-com bubble, this, that. We're taking care of business. We're happy where we are. We survived. We're still struggling with a few things, but we're okay. We don't need anything new. We don't need anything new. We're fine. We're comfortable. We're Yahoo. We're Microsoft. We're America Online. We don't need anything else. Well, you know what that company was? A $10 million little rinky-dink company that barely survived? Google. Google not only survived, but it became bigger than all three of them combined. Why did they miss out on the opportunity of a lifetime? Their opportunity for capitalism. They got comfortable. Le'avdil a million avdalot, big, huge difference from our Torah to the shtuyot of the financial world that I know a little bit about. Hashem Yitbarach made sure to write several verses in the book of Ezekiel, meaning it's relevant for eternity. And he says to you, Rabotai, you come into the Bet Mikdash, to one entrance, don't ever think for a second you can leave in the same day from that entrance. Never think that way. Why? Chassid Yavid says, Chas v'shalom. Chas v'shalom, you enter and leave from the same exit, and the walls of the Bet HaMikdash will look to you like the walls of your house. Chas v'shalom, you get used to the Bet HaMikdash like you got used to your house. It's not your house. Don't get used to anything. That's the poison. That's the poison that kills us. We get used to the big tzaddikim. We get used to having easy access to the Torah. We get used to our wives. We get used to our kids. We get used to a lot of different things, and we take them for granted. And that, Abotai, is one of the main things that is killing us. And it's causing us to make stupid mistakes. We get used to the Chachamim having the right answers, that we think that anybody with a beard and a hat, whatever he says is good. So the rabbi says to you, listen, I think that the 3 little babies died because we didn't celebrate more that Rabbi Steinman died. Everybody's like, oh yeah, Chazaku Baruch, that's a good chidush. Now one person thought to look in the Torah and says, you know what? Look what the Gemara Masechet Shabbat says. Look what the Gemara Masechet Moed Katan says. Look what the Zohar Kadosh says. Look what the Shulchan Aruch says. Look what everything else says. It's the opposite of this metumtam, of this idiot. It's the opposite. But just because he's a rabbi, he's a this, he's a that, we listen? Oh, you can't listen to nothing. So that's why sometimes people need to understand that it's their own foolishness that's causing the problems in their life. It's their own foolishness. Every single parent that has any issues in their life, any issues whatsoever, has to check themselves. Don't blame the kids. Kids are still kids. They don't know anything yet. They don't know anything yet. The Ben Ish Chai says until the age of 6, your child is similar to a monkey. Not that he's a monkey, chas v'shalom. He's still your child. But nonetheless, you can't educate him like you do someone that has dot. Even though he's smart for a 3-year-old, even though he's smart for a 5-year-old, he's still not considered someone that has his own opinion yet. You can't really give him proper chinuch yet. So even rebuking him, even telling him what to do, has to be done a certain way. It's more like training at that age than it is chinuch. But nonetheless, always be reminded that whatever is happening, the first person you have to look at is yourself in the mirror. And that's why all of these parents that are continuing to question the Gemara, they continue to question the Torah, should I do teshuvah, should I stop making sins, the fact that your kids are still alive is a miracle. Because if Hashem, you don't need to be a genius to realize this, if Hashem gets so upset when you don't honor one of his children, to the point that he punishes parents with mamash, Hashem Menachem, 3 deaths in 1 keilah of babies. For Am Yisrael, it doesn't happen, such things. In America, it maybe happens every week because the parents kill their kids. In this country, they don't want to be parents. Sometimes they throw them in the garbage. We're not Americans. Doesn't matter how long you live here. If you're a Jew, you're a Jew. That's what you are. It's the only thing you are. It doesn't matter if you're from Africa or you're America or you're in Israel. You're a Jew. That's the only thing you are. There is no such thing as American Jew. You're either a Jew or nothing. We don't have such things. We don't have parents like this. We didn't come from stuff like this. If something like this happens, there's something clearly wrong. If every other day there's a new kaparat avonot for Am Yisrael, another fire, another death, another disaster, something's happening. Hashem is telling you, if I'm so unhappy, I'm so upset that I'm bringing you this huge kaparat avonot, for you not honoring one of my gdolei ador, one of my children, what does he think when we're dishonoring him? When we walk around with tight clothes so everyone can have no imagination whatsoever. They don't need imagination anymore. You pretty much gave it away. What do you think when you're desecrating Hashem and you're driving on Shabbat? What do you think he thinks when you go into the non-kosher restaurant? No, but it's a business meeting, Rabbi. Yes, but you're now the kosher stamp for the restaurant. You're a religious Jew that goes into a non-kosher restaurant. Someone else that's not as religious as you is going to see you inside and say, oh, Steve is there. Must be kosher. Look, he's even wearing his hat. This, Rabotai, is some of the things that I had to get off my chest, but now you could ask some questions. Go ahead.
In last week's parasha,
Yeah.
as Yaakov was blessing all the tribes, and he was recognizing all their sins, when it got to Judah, it mentioned what happened with Tamar.
Good.
So that begs the question, why aren't we called Josephites? Because Joseph didn't have really a major sin like the other brothers had. So why aren't we called Josephites based on that, when all the other brothers had some form of a major sin?
It's a very good question. Question is, why aren't we called Joseph? Why, in essence, the bigger question is, why are we called Yehuda? Why are we called after Yehuda? Why are we called Yehudim, Jews, and not American Jews, not African Jews, not Tunisian Jews, and not sometimes Jews? We're Jews. Like it or not, you'll be a Jew. You'll either be rewarded as a Jew or punished as a Jew. Your choice, same price. Why? Because the secret of Am Yisrael begins and ends with Yehuda. Yehuda and Tamar had an event a couple of weeks ago. We read in the parasha where Yehuda sinned, in essence, in the eyes of the public, where he went with a prostitute. But in reality, it was allowed legally in those days. It's just frowned upon for a king to do such a thing. But nonetheless, it was still embarrassing for him. Still embarrassing for him. And he had a choice. When Tamar says to him, who do these belong to? She showed him his underwear, she showed him his staff, and she showed him his stamp. These are three things that he's the only one in the world can own them. She didn't say, hey, you're the father of my babies. You're my baby daddy. She didn't say you're my baby daddy. What'd she say? Who do these belong to? Who do these belong to? Why? Abotai. She gave him a choice. What'd she say? Listen, Yehuda, I know the Mashiach is going to come from you. You're Kodesh. I wanted to be a partner. If you don't want me to be the partner, no problem, it's your choice. It's your choice. I'm not going to embarrass you, and I'm not going to get in the way of the Mashiach. Why? It's a greater cause than me. It's greater than me. Even more so, for you to suffer a moment of embarrassment due to maybe making me feel good for a moment, it's not worth it. I'd rather jump into a fire. That's what the Gemara says. It's better to jump into a fire than to embarrass another Jew. So Yehuda had a choice. And Yehuda, in essence, his name itself was actually a prophecy. What did he do? Yehuda. He admitted. To Yehuda comes both from being grateful and also from admitting. What did he admit? He admitted, hey, chatati aviti pashati. Tzadka mimeni. She is right and I'm wrong. That, in essence, is the ingredients of a Jew. All of the prophets, the Rambam says, every single one of our prophets had a single mission. Not one of them had a different mission. Every single one had the same exact mission. What is it? Get Am Yisrael to do teshuvah. Look at Ezekiel. Look at Nehemiah. Look at Ezra. Look at Moshe Rabbeinu. Look at David. Look at anyone you want. One job they had. Get Am Yisrael to do teshuvah. Where did it start from? Yehuda. Be like Yehuda because Am Yisrael does teshuvah. Am Yisrael does teshuvah. That's why we're called after Yehuda. We're not called after Yosef. Yosef didn't have to do teshuvah in essence, really. Why? He never really sinned. He almost sinned, but he never actually sinned. But that's also why Yehuda is considered higher than Reuven. Because Reuven also did teshuvah. Reuven also did teshuvah. So why don't we call Reuvenites? I told you guys a few weeks ago, it'd be good for me. Call ourselves Reuvenites. Reuven. Psh. You guys will have to come to the shiur. Why don't we call Reuvenites? Why is it Yehuda? I missed out on this one. Why? The reason is because Reuven also did teshuvah. When he found out that what he did with his father, and he brought the bed of his mother into his father's tent after Rachel died, it was inappropriate to such an extent that the Torah writes, the verse says, he slept with Yaakov's wife. He didn't really sleep with his wife. The fact that he went inside the bedroom of his father, that already could lead to such an action. Meaning, Chas v'shalom, what are you doing in your father's bedroom? What are you doing in your father's bedroom? You know what this could lead to? So he did chatadnu avinu pashanu. And that's why when the brothers threw Yosef into the bowl, into the hole, that had no mayim and no nothing in there. What did it have? It had scorpions and snakes, the Gemara says. It had nothing in it. What does nothing mean? Nothing means that scorpions and snakes. So when he came back over there and he saw he's not in the hole anymore. What do you mean? How did you not know? Didn't you throw him in there with the rest of the brothers? No, he didn't throw him with the rest of the brothers. He went to finish his fast. He was fasting. He was fasting and was praying to Hashem, doing his teshuvah. So when he intended that as soon as his brothers go away to eat, and he finishes his prayer, he's going to go and rescue Yosef and complete his teshuvah. He came back, Yosef is gone. And he told his brothers, why'd you do this? I told you not to do it, and so on and so forth. So, in essence, this is where we learn that he actually did teshuvah even before Yehuda. So why? Back to the same question. Why are we called Reuvenim? Because his teshuvah was fasting and torturing himself. Hashem says in Gemara Masechet Ta'anit, page 25a, that's not teshuvah for me. You want teshuvah? Change your heart. Teshuvah of your heart. Torture your heart, not your body. I don't need your fasts. I don't need you to wear sacks. I don't need you to wear sacks. I don't need you to not eat for a week. Eat as much as you want. Just fix your heart. That's teshuvah. That's what Yehuda did. That's why his teshuvah was considered much more significant than Reuven, because Yehuda changed his heart. He realized, Tzadkami Mani, she's right and I'm wrong. And he admitted it. He changed his heart, he changed his actions. So that, my Rabotai, is the most significant part of the of why Yehuda is Yehuda, why Reuven is Reuven, how we missed out on that opportunity. Hopefully better time next time. Next question.
Well, in the beginning, you mentioned that in the Gemara, the sages say that a kid can pay for what his parent, his parents do, whatever.
Okay.
Sin,
His parents' foolishness will lead to a kid dying. Okay. That's Gemara. It's in Shabbat and also Moed Katan.
Okay. And Ezekiel 18 also says that God rebuked the people for saying that the father eats, sour grapes, and the kids' teeth are.
The kids are suffering for the father.
Yeah.
So it's repeating what I'm saying.
God kind of rebuked the people for saying that. He says, the kid will not die for the parent's sin, or vice versa.
Mm-hmm.
So what's the difference between the two? Is there any?
No, there is a difference. Yeah, there is a difference. When a child that's underage dies, like we said before, the Gemara says that's only because the child is in essence considered like the body part of the parents. We'll elaborate even further. When fathers try to take the role of being the ima, of trying to take the role of being the mother, and the ima is a very normal person, the mother is a very normal person, and she's not interested in the father being the ima, then that father is not only wrong, but he's crazy. And the reason why is because he doesn't understand the smallest thing about women, the smallest thing about a mother. Now, a father will look at a child, and a kid's cute, usually, unless your kid looks like a little Gargamel, but usually a kid's cute. But for the first time, the one thing you discover when you're a parent, and I only know this from experience because I never felt this before, but the one thing that Shlomo HaMelech says that you only know love once you have children. And I said, what do you mean? I love my wife. What do you mean I don't know love? The thing is, when you have kids, it's the first time in your life you actually start caring about whether another person's alive. Like, you're constantly looking at the kid. Is he still breathing? Well, it doesn't look like he's breathing. Is she breathing? Like, you're always worried about if they're breathing, the kids. That's as a father. You're just worried everybody's alive. Once they're alive and well, or the mother's taking care of them, you walk away, you do what you got to do. You're busy with your stuff, you work, you're studying, whatever it is that you do. And once in a while, you see them during the day, you play with them maybe, you eat with them. But in essence, you go about your day. A mother, on the other hand, has no such reality. Why? Because to a mother, her kids are not like the same thing as what the kids are to the father. To the father, it's really his kids, meaning it's the children of my spouse and I. Came from her. and I, and in essence the kids. It's like a third party. It's like a third party in the room. They're just ruining our privacy, really, in our dinners, and we can never eat alone ever again, and there's always noise. But they're kids, and we like them, and they're cute, and we play with them, and we take them out, and so on and so forth. But they're kids nonetheless. To the mom, there's no such reality. If it's a normal mom, it's a healthy mom, especially if it's a Jewish mom, there's no such reality. Why? Because to the mother, those children are like body parts. They're like the arm, they're like the leg, they're like the heart, they're like the head. Meaning that when you tell them, when the father comes and tells them, no, honey, don't do this. Don't tell them this. Don't tell them this. Don't do this. Don't do this. You're trying to tell the mother how to treat her own hand. What do you mean, don't tell my hand to do so? It's my hand. How are you going to tell me something about my hand? It's my hand. You tell them, no, but don't do this. What do you mean, don't do this? How can you tell me more about my leg than me? It's my leg. That's the difference. A mother views her children as body parts. Why? Because they really were at some point. They came from her body. At some point, they were mamash considered a body part. They weren't considered separate. No, it came from here to here. I could see it. Cool. Nothing changed. That's the mentality of a mother. So fathers that try to be mothers are fools. You want to be a happy father? You want to be a happy husband? Let her run the show. Just enjoy. Enjoy, let her run the show. If she needs help, if she asks you for advice, obviously always be there. But never think that you're supposed to replace the role. That's just not a reality. Now, when it comes down to the sin of parents leading to their kids' unfortunate demise, the Gemara says that's because they're underage. But then the Ezekiel that you're mentioning, there's another Gemara somewhere else that talks about the same thing that you're mentioning, where the kids get punished for the parents' sins in other places. That's when they become older. That's when they become ish. That's when they become men. Why would they get punished for their parents' sins? They get punished for the parents' sins, the Gemara in Masechet Brachot says, because they continued their parents' sins. Their father or their mother was a sinner, and they had a choice. Do I continue the sins of my parents, or do I stop? Do I do teshuvah? My father was do I continue his way, or do I go a different way? If you go a different way, ashrecha v'ashrecha kecha. The sons of Korach have Tehillim written about them. Why? They did teshuvah in the last second. They did teshuvah in the last second. We have Tehillim written about them. Why? They didn't continue their father's way. They gave up everything. They got out of the will. They didn't know that Hashem was going to kill Korach. They lost the will. They lost everything. Why? But they gained everything at the same time. Why did they teshuvah in 1 second? On the other hand, kids that continue their father's sins get punished. Why? Hashem says, I punished your father for it. I'm going to punish you double for it. Why? You should have learned from your father not to do it. Should have learned not to do. I'm not going to go into detail because we're going to leave this for the Gehenom Shiur whenever we do it, B'ezrat Hashem. But it says in Reshit Chochmah Masechet Gehenom that the Zohar Kadosh talks about it. He says to do teshuvah, all you need to do is just see what happens to the people that mechalel Shabbat. Just see what happens. You don't have to do anything else. You don't have to suffer, nothing else. Just see what happens to them. You finish, you become tzaddik. Just see. Next question. Yeah.
What's the example of the sin? The same, to repeat the
Sin of a parent?
Yeah, the example of it.
One example could be that the parent is immodest and the kid continues the immodesty. So the mother walks around, like a runway model in their secular world, and the kid thinks, oh, this is the way to continue, and she continues doing her mother's sin. So her mom is a machtia rabim, she makes the public sin, and the daughter continues. Hashem punishes them both. Another thing is if father is dishonest in business. Unfortunately today, there is a lot of dishonesty in business. People think that if it's cheating the goyim, it's allowed. I don't know where they learn this, but for some reason or another, cheating is like almost like a thing you hear about on a daily basis. This guy cheated, this guy stole, this guy took a ton of money from the bank or from people that lend the money and decided that, oh, I don't want to pay them back, so I'll leave the country. I'll go to Israel. They don't have extradition over there. They take a bunch of money from the banks. They buy this, they buy this, they buy houses, buildings, this, that, the other thing. They cash everything out and they go away to Israel to run away. Or better yet, they declare bankruptcy and they hide the money somewhere else because the bankruptcy laws in this country protect you from a lot of things. And they take advantage of the system. This is 100% theft, unfortunately. And fortunately, it's theft, but unfortunately for those people that are stealing. And the reality of it is that a kid that sees his father taking what they call advantage of the stupid system that repeats it will get punished. Will get punished. Now, I'll also give you guys another chidush that I actually only found out recently. It's well known that children do not suffer for sins. They don't get killed for sins before the age of 20 years old. Meaning if somebody made sins at 17, 18 years old, somebody made sins at 17, 18 years old, they don't get judged for it. They don't get judged for it. And most people think, oh, I'm 23 years old. What do I have? I only have 3 years worth of sins. I only have 3 years worth of sins. I'm good. I'm not that bad. Only 3 years worth of sins. I'm fine. They're misunderstanding. What are they misunderstanding? Is that Hashem doesn't punish you in this world for sins before the age of 20. That's all it means. The punishment that a person gets is from the minute that they're born. Rav Yehuda Ftaya in that book, Minchat Yehuda, I believe he talks about it. The Vilna Gaon gave Rabbi Chaim Vital, I believe, gave one of his students a special zgula, special thing to do, teshuvah. For what? Because he hit his parents as a little kid. Not hit them like today people hit their parents. Like hit them like play fighting. And he like slapped his dad or something one time. And hit him in the face. So you have to do teshuvah for that. 7, 8 years old. He slapped his father in his face as a game. So you have to do teshuvah for that. So that's the thing. That's the thing. The more you learn, the more painful it is. Meaning that you start realizing that we all have a lot of teshuvah to do. All of us. Doesn't matter if you're Haredi, Baal teshuvah, everyone has to do teshuvah. Everyone has to do teshuvah. It's scary. It's scary for me. It's scary for you. It's scary for everybody. But Reshit Chochmah Yirat Hashem. Beginning of wisdom is fear of Hashem. It's fear of Hashem. It's not intentionally trying to scare you every single shiur. It's just that you read it, you see what's happening in the world. The picture is ugly. Now, the argument we mentioned in the beginning about people saying you should have kosher phones and kosher computers and kosher this and kosher that, I also said that I don't necessarily agree with the strategy. Having a kosher phone is not necessarily a bad idea. Having a kosher computer, I don't think it's necessarily a bad idea. I just don't think it's going to fix the problem. Why? Because instead of worrying about making kosher devices, we should focus more time on making kosher people. You can make all the kosher technology in the world, but if the person's a non-kosher person, he's still going to do non-kosher things. Do you know how many avrechim and chasidim and people that are much more religious than anyone else in this room, including myself? You know how many of them contact me on a regular basis because of the biggest sins in Judaism? Do you know how many? You know, how could it be? Somebody that's an avrech, someone that learns Torah all day, all night. How could it be that he's wasting seed? How? What do you mean? How could it be? You don't realize Shulchan Aruch says it's the worst sin in Judaism? You don't realize? You missed that part? Yes. Missed that part. Missed that part. Yeah, I never learned it. Never learned it. I never knew it was such a bad sin. I actually didn't even know it was a sin. Some doctor said it was a good thing. Or he thought you should take care of your health. So, the reality is that sometimes our truth is quite different than reality. Our truth is quite different than reality. And today, if you're not doing teshuvah, we are as far away from it as the rest of the secular world. There's no such thing as a froom anymore. So, if we're worried so much about making kosher devices, kosher phones, kosher computers, kosher this and kosher that, that's all fine and dandy. It's all fantastic. But it's not going to fix the problem. Why? Because the only thing that can fix the problem is Mussar. Mussar is going to fix the problem because it's going to make kosher people. The Gemara says that if a person does not have Yirat Shamayim, you're not allowed to be inside a closed room with him. If there's a closed room, you're not allowed in him if he doesn't have Yirat Shamayim. Why? He may kill you. Mamash, he may kill you. What do you mean? I'm with my boss all the time in one office. Okay, you're in danger. You want to be in danger? Good luck to you. But the point is, the Gemara says, we learned from Avraham Avinu, you're not allowed to be in a room alone, it's a closed room, that doesn't have Yirat Shamayim. Because if he doesn't have Yirat Shamayim, that means he's turned himself into God. If he turned himself into God and you disobey God, he'll give you Gzar Din Mavet. People think that all of this stuff is a joke, all of this stuff is an exaggeration, it's analogies, it's parables, it's this, it's that. It's 100% true. Every single word of it is true. So, if we re-educated ourselves, young and old, man or woman, and we start learning different things in the Torah, like Rabbi Steinman, the Emet, when they asked him, Kvod Harav, if somebody has a single moment a day to learn something, what should they learn? Should they learn a ma'amar in the Torah, a verse in the Torah, or should they learn some Mussar thought? Some Mussar thought. This is Gdol Ador, 104 years old, didn't leave his Gemara, didn't leave his Shulchan Aruch, didn't leave the Torah all day, all night. People were just dumbfounded to see, does he eat? Does he drink? He says to him, Rabotai, if you only have a moment to think of something, think of Mussar. Why? Because the Torah is nice, but it's not going to change you by itself. The Mussar, the thought of Mussar, if you really delve into it, you really think about, you know what? Maybe I shouldn't be late all the time. You know what? Maybe I shouldn't be so cheap. You know what? Maybe I shouldn't get angry so quickly. You know what? Maybe this, maybe I should do this. Maybe that thought can change his life. It's better he has that thought, because that could change his life. The Torah, the verse in the Torah is nice, but it's not going to change his life. So, if we re-educate ourselves, whether it's as parents, as children, as adults, as teenagers, as whatever, we re-educate ourselves, rewire our own systems to see, you know what? I'm going to learn Torah. It's going to improve me as a person. If it's improving me as a person, according to Hashem, it's emet. If it's not, it's 50-50. It's 50-50. Why waste time? If your Torah is making you a better person, based on the judgment of those around you, based on the judgment of what it says in the Torah, so Hashem Yitbarach, you're good to go. But if you're seeing constant kaparat avonot, if you're unhappy, if you're miserable, if everything is sad, everything is frustrating, everything is stressful, everything is bad and so on, obviously your learning is, that's not working. You're doing something wrong. And unfortunately that's happening a lot today. When we're teaching our kids that we're supposed to celebrate because some other rabbi that's Gdol Ador is not necessarily our view of a big rabbi, and we're going to go celebrate, I mean, think about it. The Palestinians celebrate over Jews dying. The Iranians, Yimach Shimam, celebrate over Jews dying. That's what they do. They're terrorists. They're animals. Am Yisrael doesn't do such things. Am Yisrael doesn't do such things. Even more so the religious world. Why do we get to such a low level? Because there's no such thing as frum. Religion today is based on what you wear. It's complete nonsense. Of course, everyone has to be modest. But whether you wear a helmet, or you wear a kippah, or you wear a hat, as long as you're a kosher person, that's all that matters. What's a kosher person? Based on what Hashem says. Someone, I'll finish with the story, and you guys can ask more questions, but someone came into Rabbi Steinman's office one day with a helmet. He was in a hurry and he didn't have any place to put his helmet on, and he ran into the office to go see Rabbi Steinman or to his house. He had his helmet in his hand. He said, I'm sorry for the Rab, I didn't have any other place to put it. He says, don't worry. I like your helmet much more than I like some of the hats in this room. Why? He's a kosher person. That's the Ish Emet. So to celebrate such a thing that he died, I mean, you have to be crazy. Next question. Yeah.
Also, in last week's parasha, they talked about how both Yaakov and Yosef were embalmed, like mummified.
Kid.
And the commentary gave the explanation because they didn't want the Egyptians to deify
Worship them. Yeah.
But still, it's against halakha to do that. So how did Yosef and Yaakov? How did they still do that, even based on that?
Okay. Well, first off, you have to understand that this is before Matan Torah. This is before we got the Torah, meaning that the Avot HaKadoshim were not obligated to follow the Torah. They were not obligated to follow the Torah. Although the Gemara says they did follow the Torah, they followed the Torah like Noahides. So, for example, in the Sefer Yetzirah in the Zohar HaKadosh says that Avraham Avinu used the Sefer Yetzirah, the book of creation, in order to create cows on Shabbat. He would create a cow every Shabbat. Why would he create a cow every Shabbat? He created a cow out of nothing. Like Hashem created the world, Avraham had the knowledge from the Sefer Yetzirah, the book of creation, that got all the way from Adam HaRishon, how to create a cow from nothing. Took some clay from the ground, put it together, put a cow, 4 legs, with the head, you're a big cow, 2,000 pounds, $10,000. How? He had the book of creation. We don't have it anymore. But nonetheless, why would he do it on Shabbat specifically? Why didn't he do it on Tuesdays? Because he had to break Shabbat. As a Noahide, you're not allowed to keep Shabbat 100%. You have to break it. You have to break it. So he broke Shabbat by creating. What did he create? He created a cow. So the Avot HaKadoshim kept the Torah, but to a certain level, not like we do. They also had a much more extensive Torah. For example, the Gemara Masechet Avodah Zarah says that Avraham Avinu had between 400 and some believe 4,000 chapters to his Masechet Avodah Zarah. Now, what was it? Was it rabbis arguing back and forth? Obviously not. Those rabbis weren't alive at that time, meaning it was a more extensive Gemara. It was a more extensive Gemara that we no longer have. So, first and foremost, we need to know that when Yosef and Yaakov were buried and embalmed, it wasn't in a time of Matan Torah, meaning they weren't obligated to follow the laws of burial like we have to follow today. So that's number one. Number two, when you're dead, you don't really have much of a choice. You're dead. That's 2. 3, when you're living under a certain kingdom and you're not the king, it's not necessarily a choice even more so. Even more so, because why? Because your certain laws that you want to exercise, if that's going to put your nation in jeopardy, you're not allowed to put everybody else in jeopardy. So there was a... I forget the name. This story is almost 700 years old. 700 years old. So, don't quote me on the name. One time there was the Gedol Adol. The Goyim Yimach Shimam decided that we're going to arrest him because he has too much control over the people. And we're going to put him a bounty, put a price on him if anybody wants to release him. So the Jews came. This is Gedol Ador. This is our rabbi of the whole people. What do you want? So we want $1 million, hypothetically speaking. We want a ton of money. We want $1 million. The Jews, poor Jews, they love their rabbis. They get the money together. They come to the Rav and say, Kvod Harav, we Baruch Hashem, we sold the gold, we sold the this, we did everything we possibly can. We got the $1 million together. He says, you're not allowed. You're not allowed to give them the $1 million. He goes, yeah, but Kvod Harav, you're going to die in jail. You're going to die in jail, Kvod Harav. Let me die in jail. You're not allowed to use it. I'm not allowed. I forbid you to give them the $1 million for me. You're not allowed to give something that's worth more than the person. Why? Because you're going to give them $1 million. Tomorrow they're going to kidnap another person. It's never going to end. So my life is not worth more than another Jew's life. Not allowed to give them. Machshimam, they tortured him until he died. He actually died in the jail. Now one of the Jews that was rich got money together and he came to the Goyim. He says, I want his body. Let me bury him at least. Let me bury him. He says, you want to bury him? You have to give us 4 million. More money than what he was worth alive. Give us 4 million. No problem. Went, sold everything he had. Everything he sold, he gave it to him. $4 million, he got the body, he buried the body. Now, Am Yisrael, celebrate, oh Hashem, at least our Gedol Ador got proper burial. What a tzaddik this guy is, right? Next day he died. The next day he died. You're already asking questions, you're not even in the story. Hashem, how could you do it? Why'd you do it? Would you do it? All asking Hashem questions right now. Why'd you do it? Why'd you do it? Well, Hashem knew we were going to ask him some questions. So he came to the rabbi of the Keilah. And he told him, tell the Keilah not to think bad. Tell the Keilah not to think bad. After I used all my money to free him, he came to me in my dream. The rabbi came to me in my dream. He told me for the schut, for the merit that you have for freeing, for giving such kavod to a Talmid Chacham after he died, meaning I can't return the chesed for you in real life. The biggest chesed you can do, biggest kindness you can do, is chesed for a dead person. Why? You can't return anything for you. Can't do anything for you. He said, I have to give you something. I'm allowed to give you one of two things. You pick. One thing I could do is I can make you and all of your descendants forever filthy rich. Richer beyond your dreams. You know, I'm a generation as a Jew. He has a few kids. They have a few kids. They have a few kids. Within a few generations, talk about 1,000 people. Option 2. Option 2 is you come to Gan Eden with me tomorrow. You die. That's it. He says, I'll take option 2. So the rabbi asks him in a dream, why'd you pick option 2? Why don't you become rich and you can still, you're a tzaddik, you did all good things. He goes, I can't trust myself. Why? Right now I'm guaranteed to be in Gan Eden with him. Who knows where I'm going to be tomorrow? Who knows where I'm going to be next week? Who knows where I'm going to be next week? And we said a chidush on Shabbat that is very nice, relevant to this. Now when you heard the story, in the beginning you didn't think so good. Why? Somebody did a big mitzvah, and it looks like they got killed for it. That's not nice. What'd you do that for, Hashem? So now, in the Parashat Shavua, Parashat Vayechi that ends Sefer Bereshit, the tribes come to Yosef after Yaakov dies, and they say, well, Abba died. Yaakov died. Maybe now he's going to come back at us. Maybe he's going to come back at us. Why? He's going to take revenge against us. Why is he going to take revenge on us? Why didn't he take revenge last week? Why didn't he take revenge 10 years ago? Why now? Because for 17 years that Yaakov was living over there with Yosef, he never told them what happened with the brothers. He never told them, hey, Abba, by the way, I know everything is good and it's peace now. We have Shulchan Shabbat. Every Shabbat we eat together and we have Pesach together. No. He says, Abba, everything's good. Yeah, but what happened? Nothing happened, Abba. He never told them what happened 22 years ago. That, hey, by the way, Abba, they sold me. These Reshaim brothers of mine. I forgave them though, Abba. Don't worry. He never told them. They said maybe he didn't tell them because he didn't want to make Abba, he didn't want to make Yaakov upset. You make an old man upset, he could die. You don't want to make him upset. So that's why he didn't tell him. But now Yaakov died. So now what is he going to keep it for? What is he going to keep it in his heart for? Maybe now he's going to say something to us. Maybe now he's been waiting all this time to take revenge against us. So they come to Yosef and they tell him, Yosef, we're sorry, we're this, we're that. Yosef cries to them and says, no, ma pitom. I don't want anything bad for you. And he says the following. Al tirau ki atachat Elohim ani, ואתם חשבתם עליי רעה, Elohim chashava letova. He says, fear not, for I am instead of God. What am I, God? I'm going to decide something? Although you intended me harm, God intended it for good. And it continues. Now, the chidush was, this is 2 verses I just read to you. Now, if you go to Sefer Bereshit, you'll see that there's a verse in there that most Jews, probably all Jews, or at least most today, know this verse by heart. And that's Yom HaShishi v'yechulu hashamayim v'aretz v'chol tzeva'am. It was Friday, thus the heaven and the earth were finished, and all their array. And it continues. And the reason why most Jews know this is because this is in Kiddush of Shabbat. What's the issue? The issue is this is not one verse. The issue is this is really 2 verses. Yom HaShishi, the first 2 words of that blessing, is really the last 2 words of a verse. And the rest of what was said in that blessing is a completely different verse. It's the following verse. So it's the last 2 words of one verse and a complete another verse. But for the bracha, for the blessing, they combined the 2 to make it sound nicer, as if the Yom HaShishi is connected to the Shabbat, which it is. So this is a certain principle you can use in the Torah in order to understand certain things, certain hidden messages within the Torah. Now, you can't just do this anywhere. You have to use certain laws. You can't just create laws out of your thin head or out of your, some imagination. You have to use something that's already been used. If we use that same exact principle in this last week's parasha, Parashat Vayechi, in the message that Yosef said to his brothers. The message that Yosef said to his brothers, what do we get? Elohim ani, v'atem chashavtem alay ra'a, Elohim chashava letova. I am God. You thought bad about me, but God thought good. I told you the story, Rabotai. Hashem says, I'm God. You thought bad about me. You thought I killed him for no reason. But I thought good. I gave him Gan Eden instead. Rabotai, every single day we have problems. Every day we have flat tires. We have problems at work. We have problems with this. We have problems with this. Hashem wants to give you good. You always think bad about Hashem. Always think, oh, Hashem doesn't know what he's doing. If he did this, maybe he did this. Hashem is always thinking good for you. Unfortunately, sometimes the good hurts. Sometimes the good hurts. But it's always good. The key is to make sure to pay attention. Pay attention. If you pay attention, B'ezrat Hashem, it won't hurt as much next time. But nonetheless, you need to know that when you're telling the truth, it hurts sometimes. Why? Because it obligates you. It obligates you. So don't become one of these people where you love the truth until it obligates you. Okay, that just means you're a liar in hiding. That's all you are. You're a liar in hiding. You just like, you like to yell at other people. Any other critical questions, or are we going to continue on Tuesday?
Ron said, in regards to extreme cases, about father's involvement
Ken.
in the children's life.
Ken.
Because to the wife.
Ken.
What is the middle way?
What is?
What is the middle way?
The middle way? Well, I mean, in general, the priority of and the role of the husband and the wife in a family are quite different. First and foremost, we need to know that everything that the husband and the wife do is supposed to be a partnership. You're not supposed to be competing. A husband and wife that's competing is going to be an unhappy husband and wife. Second of all, the point of a relationship in general, every relationship you have in your life, whether it's between you and your wife, you and your children, you and your partners in any way, business and so on, it's supposed to be that you're bringing the best out of each other, meaning 1 + 1 = 3, not 1 + 1 = 2. Meaning you're supposed to become a better version of you as a result of that partnership. So, if it's 1 + 1 = 2, that means you still both remained individuals. You're both just looking for your own interest. But if it's 1 + 1 = 3, that means you both have become better due to each other. Obviously, I'm not teaching you math, I'm just teaching you how to make relationships work. If you came out of this shiur thinking that 1 + 1 = 3, then you need a different shiur.
So in that case, why isn't it 1?
Why isn't it 1? Because then you would be less than what you already started.
1 as in...
You can use that analogy too if you'd like, to become a single person. It's one soul, sure. But nonetheless, the point I'm trying to embellish here is that you're supposed to become a better version of yourself. Because one of the things that I remember when I first met my wife, I'm going to give you guys some personal stuff, but this is for educational purposes only. And she told me that one thing that made me unique is that I used to have a saying that I could learn from everyone. And the reason why is because I know what I know. And you must know something that you know. And there must be at least one thing that you know that I don't know. Even if I think I'm smarter than you. Even if I think there has to be at least one thing that you know that I don't know. So if I can get what you know, I'll be a better version of what I know. So, maybe egotistical, maybe visionary, whatever you want to call it. The point being is that you become a better version of you as a result of relationships. That's the sign of a good relationship. If you're becoming a worse version of you, then you have to obviously test yourself, check yourself and see what's going on. Now, the role of a wife in a Jewish home is to educate the children, to discipline them, to make sure that they're taken care of, to also make sure that the husband doesn't sin, to encourage the husband to learn Torah. That's it. The role of the husband is to provide for the family and to be the main source of Torah for the family. Meaning, he's the rabbi of the family. Either himself as the teacher or he's bringing the teacher. But nonetheless, he's in charge of education for the family. Now, if he can't do it himself, he has to make sure that he's providing it in some way or another. Not everybody's a good speaker. Not everyone has the time. Not everyone has the ability. And so on and so forth. But nonetheless, he's responsible for the family's Torah, and he has to learn Torah himself. He must learn Torah. The biggest reason of why he has to learn Torah, aside from protecting himself for sin, is because your kids are like little miniature copy machines. Your kids are copy machines. They're going to see you, they're going to do. If they see Abba and Ima value the Torah as number one, they'll value the Torah as number one. If they see Abba and Ima value soup as number one, they'll value soup as number one. You can see what's valuable in any family's house based on what the kids talk about. If the kid running around in the Beit Knesset is talking about iPhones costing $500 or $1,000 or whatever they cost today, then you know that in that house, what's important is not Torah. What's important is iPhones and money. If the kid talks about LeBron James and Magic Johnson and Michael Jordan and whoever is still playing or not playing, if he's talking about that, then you know Moshe Rabbeinu, Avraham Avinu, Yitzhak Avinu are not part of that household. They're in school maybe, but they're not part of the household. Why? Because they don't talk about Moshe and Avraham and Yitzhak and Shulchan Shabbat. They talk about LeBron James. They talk about Patrick Ewing. They talk about all these people that are on television. That's who they talk about. So if Abba and Ima make Torah number one, that means Torah is number one. If it's not, you'll see what else replaced it. So that is also a combination of the efforts of the Abba and the Ima. The Ima can't do it by herself. Why? She's not getting as much Torah nourishment as the husband is supposed to get. Why? Because she's running the house. She's taking care of the kids. I can tell you personally, sometimes, Hashem does me a chesed. He gives me the ability to, babysit my kids for like an hour a week. And, my wife, Baruch Hashem, she gives me a luxury to do all this zikuya rabim and everything else. But once in a while, she needs my help. So I take care of the kids. Not much, but I take care of the kids for a little bit of time. Honestly, I see the kids. It's literally a miracle. It's every day that the kids are still, everything's okay, everything passed, no one fell, no one is. It's mamash 100% miracle. Why? It's literally, they run to danger. They literally run, one of them can't even run yet, they can't even walk yet, but he somehow goes to danger. It's unbelievable. It's unbelievable. It's mamash a miracle. And I tell my wife every time, I appreciate her even more. This hour is like teshuvah for me. Why? I'd say, how do you do this all week? My job is easy next to yours. How do you do this all week with these kids? They're running to danger 24 hours a day. And not even like they want to. It's just constantly around. Constantly. I tell you, a thing happened today, mamash today. We're in a swing set. We have a swing set in the back, a little cute swing set. And I'm with my son. He's swinging. He's tiny. He's less than a year old. And I lean on the swing set. Very normal thing. It's big. I'm leaning on it. Do I think twice about the guy that put it together forgetting to put the screws? Did I think about this? No. Who thinks about this? So I'm leaning on it, and the whole swing set separates, and my son is in like mid-air, and he's falling. My 10-month-old son is falling. I have to catch the chain in the air. Shtabach Shimolad, I caught it, because my hand was already on it, not because I have good reflexes, but nonetheless, the point is, it's mamash danger all the time. I look at I say, Shtabach Shimolad, Baruch Hashem, nothing bad happened. This imbecile that put the thing together forgot to put the screw. The whole thing fell apart. But then I look at my wife, and I'm like, how do you do this? 10 minutes I'm with them. So something bad already happened. 10 minutes. We're not even talking about the whole hour today. It was 10 minutes. Didn't survive the hour. I don't know. So if you're a smart parent, first and foremost, kiss your wife's feet for doing it. It's so hard. I don't know, maybe you're better at it than I am. I'm not such a bad parent, but I don't know, maybe you have better luck. Your kids are not running to danger. But in general, each person needs to know that their role is important. Now, if the father is going into the wife's kitchen, if the father goes to the wife's kitchen and he starts telling her what to do, not only is he violating her space, which by itself is not a good idea. It's like going into the cage of a Rottweiler that hasn't eaten in a week. But aside from that, it's a sign of disrespect, because what you're saying to her, just by simply walking into the kitchen and asking what's cooking, in essence, what you're saying to any mom, what, you don't trust me? You don't trust me to manage my own body parts? What are you? You know them for 2 years. I know them for 3. She's always going to know them better than you. So, of course, you have to make sure that she always knows, honey, it's your job, it's your thing. If you need my help, I'm here. If you need my help, I'm here. You don't need my help, enjoy. That's number 1. 2, always make sure that anytime you're going to help with children, it does not remove you from your job. Meaning, your primary job is to provide, if you're the provider of the house. Your primary job is to learn Torah. You can't say, listen, you know what? Today I'm going to do a mitzvah. I'm going to take care of the kids instead of learning Torah. That's not a mitzvah. It's a mitzvah from Satan. That's not your role. Your role is not to take care of kids. Your role is to take care of Torah. Why? That's your role in the world. The woman's going to go to Gan Eden because you learned Torah, or Gehenom because you didn't learn Torah. Which means that you, thinking you're doing her a favor, in essence, you're actually hurting her. So that's number 2. Always make sure you play your role. Number 3. I think we're up to number 3. See, I lost counts. I told you guys 1 + 1 = 3. I'm thinking there's already 3. So next thing is we should do letters now. So next thing is you need to understand is that if you're going to tell her, number 1, honey, if you need my help, I'm there. Number 2, I have free time. I already learned enough Torah. I already provided enough financing, whatever we need to provide. And I still have time to help you. You have to make sure that you're working as a team with her. Not as an independent contractor mercenary. Okay? If she says they're not allowed to eat chocolate, you can't be the father that says, no, come on, let them have chocolate. No, she said no. Never disagree in front of the kids, ever. And in general, whatever she says goes. Why? If you come there once a week you're there, you're the father of the hour, you're the Monday morning quarterback, and you say, no, honey, why don't you give him some chocolate? You just ruined her entire week. Why? The whole week she's trying to educate the kids, we'll only have chocolate after we do our homework. You, Mr. Wonderful, came in there, no, why don't you have some chocolate? Why don't you give him now? You just ruined a week worth of work. So make sure you're working together. But always remember, you're the help. You're the help, not she's the help. Meaning, honey, can I help you? Not, hey, honey, take a step back. Let me take care of this. That's not your role. That's not your role in life. So that's the thing. If that's your profession, your job is your job. It has nothing to do with what you do at your house. If that's what you like to do, great, good for you. Maybe next Kiruv you'll be a woman. Right now, that's not your job. That's not your job. Why? You can't just say to Hashem, I don't like my job. I don't like learning Torah. I want to be an imam. You can't do that. It's not an option.
In certain states it is.
No, we're talking about Torah. Unfortunately, in the secular world, everything's an option. A dog can be a imam. There's a woman that died in New York not too long ago, and she left a $25 million inheritance to her dog. What's the dog going to do with it? Anything else? The questions I was waiting from that department never came? Finished? We already? Baruch Hashem.
A family adopted a teenager, a girl that
Okay.
grew up with them. Now the father is not her natural father. Is there a yichud there in their interaction in the home and the natural born son?
Wait, so they adopted as a baby or they adopted as a teenager?
The baby grew up to be a teenager. Now
So
have
they
a
adopted as a
born
baby?
son that's like over 13 now.
Okay, they adopted a baby, and now the baby has become a grown-up? And is there an issue of yichud?
Yeah, there's a natural born son also in the home.
Oh, yes. Yes, there's yichud. Yeah.
The son of father and the
Yeah, they're not allowed to be alone. Yeah, they have to watch it, because regardless of how close they are, regardless of how wonderful the relationship is between them, they're still not brother and sister. And as a matter of fact, the Rambam says that it's customary, especially in the Sephardic world today, that when a brother and sister see each other as adults, they kiss. They hug and they kiss. Or sometimes you'll kiss your aunt. You see your aunt, your mom's sister or your father's sister or whatever, and she'll go, puchi, puchi, puchi. I remember when you were a little 5-year-old baby and now you're 35-year-old Jahash, but whatever, puchi, puchi, puchi. And they want to kiss you, and she's 75 years old, and you're 35 years old. What's the big deal? The Rambam says this is what stupid people do. This is what stupid people do. Why? You're bringing yourself to sin. Even if it's with your sister. Even if it's with your own sister. Biological. So, nonetheless, the person needs to understand that there's no such thing as a person that's above and beyond arayot, meaning the sexual desires. And that's something that even Rabbi Akiva, even Rabbi Meir Baal HaNes almost failed for. They thought they were above it themselves, so Hashem tested them. And they almost fell. Both of them similar sin. Both of them similar story. So it's even more so when someone is in reality, doesn't have that connection. Now, the Torah has a couple of places in the 5 books of Moses that talks about the sin of incest. Brother and sister, son with mom, and all these different things. Now, on Yom Kippur, before Ne'ilah, we go over a Tachnun, and it goes over a lot of details about sex crimes. And those same sins are mentioned again. Now, do you think that Hashem would go through the trouble of himself mentioning it in the Torah, and the Chachamim, instilling it into the Chachamim's heads, to instill it in the Tefillah, if it wasn't very much a serious problem? Unfortunately, there are many stories where former or ex wonderful parents that adopted children, Hashem Merachem, ended up doing something with their own children. Why? It's adopted. When it's puchi and it's a month old or a year old, it's puchi cuchi da 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 da. But when she's 20, she's not puchi muchi anymore. And she's not your daughter, really. And your Yetzirah tells you that. So if it happens to the fathers that raised the kid for 20 years, why don't you think it's going to happen to the son that has hormones coming out of his ears at that age? These are very real problems. These are very real, serious questions. I know that people don't like to talk about it because it's not politically correct and it's not appropriate. And then there's kids, and then there's women, and then there's this, and it's never right to say, and it's never, but it's a real problem. It's a serious problem. How do we know? We don't need evidence from the world, which we have. We see it in the Torah. We see it in the Torah. So that's the thing. It's the Yichud laws are very much a real thing, even with your own family. Adopted, not adopted is irrelevant. Next. I have more Puchi Muchi left for you guys if you want. Beseder, Baruch Hashem. Bezrat Hashem, this will help us get to understand more and more about the truth, more and more about what Hashem wants from us. Also, Bezrat Hashem, hopefully this helps each and every single one of us go home and reflect on what version of the truth we have. Is the truth we have bias? Is it because we like it, that's why it's true? Or is it because God said it, and that's why it's true? If it's because God said it, Baruch Hashem. If it's not, what are you going to do about it? Are you going to continue lying to yourself for the rest of your life? And then find out what happens? Take that chance? Or we start actually doing teshuvah. Teshuvah is available to all. If you're still alive, teshuvah is available to you. Bezrat Hashem, we're going to have another shiur on Tuesday. If you have a weak stomach, do not come. If you have a weak stomach, don't come on Tuesday. You should listen to the shiur anyway. You should listen to the shiur anyway at some point in your life, but you don't necessarily need to listen to it live. It's good because it's important for Yirat Shamayim. And as much as I don't want to do it, the reality is that it needs to be done. So at least someone can go up to Shamayim and they're going to ask him, did you ever learn about Gehenom? Did you ever learn about Gehenom? And they can't answer no anymore. They won't have the ability to answer no anymore. They won't have the ability to answer no. Why? Because when someone goes up to Shamayim, the Sfarim HaKadoshim say that Hashem Yitbarach, so they come to them, and it's going to be, during the trial, it's going to be a busha. It's going to be embarrassment. Why is it going to be embarrassment? Because you're going to go up to Shamayim, and Hashem is going to look at you and say, how could you do it? How could you do it to me? Look what I did for you. I give you eyes, ears, legs, hair, food, air. Everything you wanted I gave you. How could you go against me? How can you do it? How can you put avodah zarah on your head? How can you drive on Shabbat? How could you eat non-kosher? How could you make other men sin? How could you sin yourself? How could you do it? How? Don't you have any type of gratefulness for the hand that feeds you? Don't you have any fear of Gehenom? And they say, wait, Hashem, hold on. I never learned it. I never learned about Gehenom because in English, no one taught it. No one taught it. And somebody that wanted to teach it, they put cherem on him. No one taught it. They said it's only for Talmidei Chachamim. Show me 5 that know what it is. Show me 5 that are under the age of 40 that know what Gehenom really is. It doesn't exist. Why? It's hard. It's this. It's that. It's not a fun. It's not a fun subject to learn. It's awful. But you need to learn it. Why? Because then there's a much likelier chance you're never going to have that embarrassment. Why? Because the next time the Yetzer Hara shows up at your door, he says, hello, you want to make some type of sex crime? Hello, you want to make some type of money crime? Hello, you want to make some Chilul Hashem together? I say, no. I don't want to be cut up into 1.5 million pieces. I don't want to suffer. I don't want this stuff. No, thank you. Why? It sounds like fun what you're saying, Mr. Yetzer Hara, but it's not worth it. It's too expensive. So we need to learn it at some point in our life. Unfortunately, it's a very necessary part of the Torah. And one of the main focuses that I'm going to have is not going to be necessarily just the details of what happens. The main focus that I'm going to try to have Be'ezrat Hashem is sources, meaning that it's not only real, it's in the Torah. That's what the Kofrim are going to constantly tell you. That's what they've been telling people for years, is that Gehenom is not real, and if there is such a thing, then it's really just embarrassment. It's just busha, they embarrass you. It's really just a washing machine. You go there for a year and they clean you up and everything's okay. There was an article on Chabad one time. It made it sound so good, I want to go there. I actually wrote that as a response to the article. They took it off though. I had a debate with the guy that wrote the article. I told him everything you wrote is pure kfirah. It was written like 5-6 years ago. For everything you wrote is against the Torah. It doesn't say anything about this stuff. Where'd you get this? I'll show you in the books where it says washing machine. Where they got this crazy notion of washing machine. It doesn't say washing machine, but where they got that notion from. How they twisted the Torah and manipulated it in so many ways that it's mamash a different Torah. It's a different Torah. You need to know the sources. You need to know it's real. You need to know it's not a joke. Why? It's the only thing that's going to help you. Yetzer Hara is growing just like your Yetzer Hara Tov is growing. Every time you come to a shiur, you do mitzvot. Every time you wake up, you do mitzvot. Every time you function every day, you do mitzvot. Every time you do mitzvah, it's good. Yetzer Hara is growing. Yetzer Hara Tov is growing. Yetzer Hara is also growing though. Yetzer Hara is also growing. So the only way you're going to beat the future Yetzer Hara is to have some knowledge, some weapons. That unfortunately is not pleasant to hear. It's very scary, but the most important focus is going to be to show you that it's very much real. I'll give you a little bit of details of what happens in it, so you get a little bit of nightmares here and there. But most importantly is for you to understand that it is real. It's not a washing machine. It's not busha. It's not embarrassment. If you read Masechet Gehenom, it doesn't mention embarrassment once. Only embarrassment is mentioned during the trial, not in Gehenom. There's no embarrassment in Gehenom. Why? Because after Hashem comes to you and he says, why did you do it? Why did you go against me? You know what you say to him? Hashem, you're right, punish me. Hashem, you're right. You're right, Hashem, punish me, I'll sign off. Send me to this one. Send me, you're right. You're right, Hashem. Why did I do it? I'm wrong. Send me. You sign off. You sign off. Do you understand? There's no embarrassment. There's no washing machine. There's no, oh no, maybe it's a different opinion. There's no such thing as one opinion. There's one emet. You need to know it. As a woman, as a man, you want to watch it live, if you have a strong stomach, you should do it. If not, watch it another time in small little pieces. Every time you have a Yetzer Hara, watch 10 minutes. That's fine too. Also, know yourself. I don't know every single one of you really well to the point where I can tell you it's appropriate for you. If you're the type of person that you're growing, you're getting stronger, and Mussar is helping you continue overcoming the Yetzer Hara, good. This is good for you. At least a part of it is. If you're the type of personality where if you hear such things, it like puts you into like some shell shock, like you become like brain freeze, like you don't know what to do, you become like hopeless. Oh my God, if I go there, I'm doomed, I'm this, and you just don't know what to do yourself. You want to give up? Don't come. Don't come. It's not appropriate for you. If it gets you to a point where you're like frozen, you don't know, you're up to a point where hearing it, even the small little details that I give you guys here, hearing it gets you to a point where you're like scared to death, like you don't want to continue anymore, and you become depressed. Don't come. Don't come. Don't listen to it. Not for now. You're not ready for it. It's good. It's fine. It's perfectly fine as long as you keep learning. The point is to keep you learning, number one, and two, to get you to be your Yetzirah wherever it is. Because if right now, at this moment, you think you're okay, you're not okay. You're not okay. Hat, beards, skirts, all that stuff does not make you religious. Doesn't make you religious. What makes you religious is listening to Hashem throughout the whole day, not just when you feel like it, not what's convenient. So sometimes we need some help. Sometimes we need some Yirat Shamayim. Sometimes we need some scary stuff. And if it wasn't necessary, Hashem wouldn't put it in the Torah. And I'm not just talking about the secret part of the Torah. As a matter of fact, after some research that I've done, it's literally everywhere. It's in Sefer Bereshit. It's in Sefer Shmot. It's in all 5 books of Moses. It's in all of the prophets. It's all over Tehillim. It's all over the Gemara. It's all over the Zohar. It's everywhere. You just don't know perhaps where to look and what to look because it's not obvious. It's not like Shabbat, keep, and it's not like that. You have to it's a deeper part of the Torah because again, Hashem knows it's not necessarily meant for the first grader. But as far as the details, the gruesome details of it, it's awful. It's as awful as you can imagine, times it by a zillion, and it's still not half of it. So we'll go over some small details, but nonetheless, most important part is to make sure you realize by the time you finish that shiur, that sinning is the stupidest thing in the world, especially sinning on purpose. 2, it's not my opinion. It's not my opinion. There is no opinion here. I'm going to bring very little of my opinion, if anything at all. And 3, you need to know this. Because your Yetzirah, at some point or another, is going to need it. So whether you're going to listen to it now, later, that's going to be up to you. Like I said, it's important for every single person, Am Yisrael, to listen to this shiur. Because right now, the disease is great. The disease we have today is not going to be cured by kosher phones. The disease that we have today is not going to be cured by kosher computers. The disease we have today is not going to be cured by simple seminars or by songs on YouTube that some Hasidim sing and make you feel good about yourself before Shabbat. It's all nice. It's all wonderful. And people like to text each other messages of all these nice little ma'amarim, these different things, or chizuk. Oh yeah, have emunah like the Baal Shem Tov. Oh yeah, Rabbi Nachman said this. Oh yeah, Rabbi Akiva said this. Yes, it's all wonderful. But when the Yetzirah shows up at your door, what are you going to do? What are you going to do then? That's what the shiur is for. That's the cure. Mussar, to get us to have some Yirat Shamayim. Be'ezrat Hashem, HaKadosh Baruch Hu will bless us to give you the right words, to give you the right way, so all of us can develop some Yirat Shamayim. And Be'ezrat Hashem, more and more people do teshuvah today, tomorrow, and every other day until Mashiach comes. Baruch Adonai Le'olam. Amen ve'amen.